Secondary succession occurs in areas where there's once been a stable ecosystem that's undergone a significant disturbance of some kind. Okay, it might be through human activities like farming, mining, building, or it could be a natural process like recovery after a fire, a flood, or a cyclone. Regardless, the natural cycles of matter and energy that were flowing through the community have been disturbed and they're interrupted and they need to regain some kind of equilibrium. Now, secondary succession is all about rebuilding a community where there was one previously. That doesn't necessarily mean that the same type of ecosystem is going to appear. It may be a completely new type which replaces the old one. In regions undergoing secondary succession, there's most likely still going to be soil present. Now, if there is soil present, there's a possibility that there are seeds and bulbs lying dormant in that soil, and they can regrow immediately when resources like water are available again. And this makes secondary succession a much faster process than primary succession. Eventually, the ecosystem is aiming to return to a type of climax community, right? And this marks the end of that succession. I say end with those inverted commas because this is a theoretical idea. There's always going to be that change in that ecosystem. Climax communities are the slow-growing ones, but they are long-lived and they are full of case-selected species. These are the kinds of complex ones we've seen before, like the old-growth forests or the coral reefs. So climax communities will be full of those very complex interactions as well. The environment's pretty stable with regard to the energy and nutrient cycling when you're measuring it over a long time, and the species in this community will find their niche, they'll outcompete others, they'll partake in all of those complex interactions where there is good biodiversity. Some examples of secondary succession are far more common than primary. Okay, we could be discussing an area of farmland that's been abandoned and eventually it's reclaimed by local plants and animals. Soil is already available to assist in the regrowth of that vegetation, regardless of what kind of ecosystem is going to come out of it. Seed dispersal from local areas can assist in the revegetation, and the area is often, open and really good with the light availability. It could also be post-bushfire where vegetation grows back and animals sort of return to inhabit the area again. In this situation, soils can contain quite a lot of dead organic matter, which can actually enrich it and then help any dormant seeds to grow again. We know that also Australian species have really good adaptations to, some trees have fire-based seed dispersal. So when the temperatures heat up, the seeds actually disperse, ready for that regeneration afterwards. We know we need to be able to distinguish between primary and secondary succession, so here is one quick summary. Doesn't mean there's not a lot of other ways we can distinguish between the two. There's a lot of visual representations of this process as well, and sometimes they do combine them in the same one. So for example, we've got primary starting off here, and as it continues, this is where that disturbance will occur before the secondary succession carries on. So when you zoom in on just the species within the community, which grow during the processes of succession, you can do a comparison of these as well. So in this case, the pioneer species versus the climax species, or that would be present in a climax community at the end. And this diagram is straight out of your Pearson textbook. Summary, right there, 3 subject matter points. Make sure you can explain the concept, differentiate between and identify features of pioneer species.